Time to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Double the amount of members.
Ba-ba-bum.
50% addition. Actually, I don't know. That's probably wrong.
I mean,
Math's not my strong suit.
you do get 50% more because you go from 3 to 6. That's double, right?
I don't know. I don't know math.
I don't either. I'm a historian.
Who needs math?
Mathematicians.
Well, they can have it.
They
Hello,
can have
welcome
all the
to.
math they want.
They can. Hello, welcome to this week's episode of Jared and Now Watch Love Live. It's a podcast where we don't talk about math at all.
Yay!
I'm Jared, joined as always by Dog Owl and Ladium.
Hello.
And we are discussing Season 1, Episode number 4, entitled MakiRinPana.
Well,
Some first years are going to stuff.
yeah, I mean, we left off with, hey, we need 5 members in order to become an official club.
True, that is a key aspect that Honoka is trying to figure out. And she's like, well, we need to figure out a way to get new members. And she zeroes in on some first years.
Specifically Maki.
Mm-hmm. She really wants Maki to join. Maki's like, nah, not really.
So what did she say to the first years? It's really funny when she goes to their room.
She's like, hello, it is me, your school idol.
But
and they're like, huh?
She says something else like, what's up, you first years, or something weird.
Oh, yeah, what's up, you first years?
It's like, what are you saying?
And they're like, who is this weirdo coming into our class?
I mean, that's fair. And she's like, I need to know who the musician redhead is. Please tell me her name and where I can find her at all times.
Well, that all happens. Hanyo is having an internal debate.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's trying to figure out, do I join Muse or not? Because she's shy and doesn't feel like she would be an idol or not.
And she gets an application at one point, but just doesn't do a whole lot with it. And she's having issues speaking up in class and fumbles over her words.
Rin comes to her after school one day and is like, hey, have you figured out what club you want to join yet? You know, you told me yesterday you were going to figure out that today. And I was like, oh, no, I didn't. Oh, God, did I say that? Oh, no. And then Ren's is like, did you want to go check out the idol club? I thought that's what you wanted to do. And she's like, I mean, I do, but I don't know. Would you want to be an idol with me? And Ren's like, what? No.
I'm not feminine enough.
Look at me. Do I look like an idol?
I got this short boy hair.
I'm a cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
So
get
Red's
like a
like, "No, dog."
flashback of her like wearing a skirt once in elementary school and like a boy teasing her about it, and her like immediately saying like, oh, I need to go home and get out of the skirt and change immediately. Let's go. I have to go now. So she has issues with, I guess, traditional femininity. We'll put it that way.
Yeah. While that's happening, Hanae like goes to leave and sees Maki in front of like one of the recruitment posters that Honoka has put up, and she drops her ID. And Hanae picks it up and is like, oh, I bet this is Maki's because it has her picture in it.
Also, she was literally the only one standing there.
Yep. She goes, she brings it to her house.
Giant house.
We learned that Maki's family is very rich because they have their own
family
hospital. And they're like, oh, yes, we're really excited for Maki to inherit the family hospital. So, like, she's, like, sitting there by herself because Maki hasn't shown up yet. It's just like, oh, God, this place is way too fancy. Oh, no. And then Maki shows up and is like, what are you doing here? Why are you here?
Well, and Maki's mom at one point, like, roasts her own daughter. She's like, oh, look, you finally have a friend. I'm going to go get you some tea. And I'm like, dang. Mom, calm down. Like, are you saying your daughter has 0 friends? That's so rude.
So, like, Honey was like, oh, I brought your ID. I saw you were looking at the Muse poster. And then Maki's like, what do you mean? I wasn't looking at that. That was someone else.
And then, like,
she's like,
falls
no.
out of her chair.
Hits her chin on the table and everything. Just a comedy of errors because she's so tsundere.
Yeah, she's so tsundere.
And then like Hane was like, "Oh, I love hearing your voice. You're a good singer. You should be an idol." And she's like, "No, no. You should be an idol instead. You could do it. Thumbs up."
Anyway, I've got to do like
I gotta
medicine stuff.
I gotta go suffer.
I can't do musics.
Bye.
Goodbye.
So that happens. Haneo leaves and then comes across the Homura sweet shop and goes in and is like, "Oh, I should get something for the parents." She walks in and then like she's like, the person attending the counter is like, "Oh, I'll be with you in a second." Turns around and it's Honoka, and Haneo's like, And he's like, "Oh, it's you, first year. Why don't you go upstairs and wait for me? I'll come talk to you later."
and then
Haneo walks up and is like, "I don't know which door to go in. She didn't tell me." She opens the first door and it's Honoka's sister like groping herself.
Try to make her boobs bigger.
And Haneo's like, I'm just gonna
That's
close
the wrong
this door.
room.
She walks down to the next door and sees Umi just like practicing idol poses and singing. And this is like, close this door.
Yep.
And she's like, "Oh God, what have I gotten myself into?" And then both doors open. It's like, "Were you spying on me?" So then eventually she sits down with Honoka and Umi, and then Kotori comes in, and they watch the recording of their performance and everything. Haneo is like intently watching, like, yes, And she's like, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you be an idol with us?" And she's like, "Oh, but I can't. I'm really flawed and everything." And they're like, Umi's like, "Yo, I got real bad stage fright, my dude." Honoka's like, "I'm a klutz." Katori's like, "I'm a bird."
A bird.
I forget what she says, but she also says something that's like, "I have a flaw too." And then they're like, "Why don't you think it over and you can come talk to us later and everything." The next day, Haneo's like trying to help her like practice like her projection and everything and like speaking up loudly, but it's like she still isn't doing that great. During a break, Maki comes to talk to her and is like, "Hey, you gotta talk louder, you goof.
I want to
What are
teach
you
you
doing?
projection."
Let me teach you how to sing notes." And they do note singing, and she's like, "Sing louder." And that's the thing. Ren just shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm taking you to the idol club. You're joining." And Maki's like, "Why don't you let her like practice singing first?" And Ren's like, "Who the hell are you?" "I'm her friend. You gotta yell at her and make sure she does things or she won't do it." And then Maki's like, "Huh?" "We're gonna help her. That's what I'm doing." And Ren's like, "No, we're taking her to the idol club." And they're like just dragging her, and Haneo's like, "Please help."
Suffering.
They take her to the roof and are like, "She's joining." And Haneo's like, "What? Not it. And then eventually she decides like, "Okay, I'll join." And then the second year's like, "Okay, by the way, you two are joining as well." And they're like, "What? Excuse me? What do you mean?" Like, "Yep, you're joining now. We're 6 members. Yay!"
Yay.
And that's the story of how they got all the first years to join.
Yep. Just forcing them.
They're like, "Okay, Haneo's a cinch to get in. What if we're just gonna steal these other two and make them join anyways, regardless."
We've been wanting Maki anyway. Here she is. Let's put her in.
Oh man, that whole segment is just weird.
It's very weird.
Like Rin just comes off as like an during it.
Yeah.
She's like, "You don't tell her what to do. She'll never do anything." He's like, "That's not a thing you say in front of your friend."
But also, like, that's a mean thing to do about, like, your friends.
Exactly.
Support your friends, yo.
It's like, what is... Like, and it's very uncharacteristic for her as well.
Oh, is it?
And, like, I felt like throughout, like, what we've seen so far, she hasn't come across like that.
She hasn't so far. She's
and this, like, this just comes out of the blue?
She's kind of like an ass here.
Yeah, like, it's super weird.
Does she act like that throughout the rest of the series?
Not that I can recall.
Hmm.
Unless I'm forgetting something, but it's like, yeah, it just seems so weird.
Once again, as I've mentioned last episode, it feels very forced, this whole thing. And like Maki's been so resistant this whole time, and then she's like, "Yeah, sure, I guess I'm here. Like, why not?" And then
it feels like they're just like it's just like the easiest way possible for them to just join. It's just like, hey, here's the second year's just gonna tell them, hey, you're joining as well now. And they're like, okay, I guess.
And like Ren has not shown any interest whatsoever in this, and now
Mm-hmm.
she's just part of it and it's like, okay.
Like, it's not a resolution. It's just like, hey, we don't want to write more of getting these other characters to join, so we're just gonna wrap them up into this and call it a day.
Yeah, it's like they've been dictated that they're going to join, but not given an actual reason to join.
Mm-hmm.
Like we know that Maki was interested, but like I would have preferred it to have been her actual choice
Mm-hmm.
to join rather than her just being like conscripted, basically. Like, all right, well, this is the military. Here's your draft notice. You're now an idol.
Basically, yeah.
And it's like, you know, it's irritating to me because like Maki, as we learned earlier in this episode, is kind of being forced to do what her parents want her to do, and then she's being forced now to be an idol, even though that's more in line with what she wanted to do. I wanted it to be her decision.
Yeah.
And I feel like the way that it's written, like Maki doesn't get to make her own choices.
Like again, comparing this to Sunshine, like if it feels like the writers, at least there, were like, we are going to make sure all of these characters have a reason and understanding of why they would want to join.
Yeah.
Like the only times you kind of get close to like characters kind of just being wrapped up in it is like when Hanamaru joins, is mostly just because like Ruby's is like, hey, I really want to do this with you, and I think you would be good for it, even though like you feel like that you wouldn't be, and they're able to tie it into a story that happens in this series, and that's kind of how she's able to join, more or less. And then like when Daya joins, where there's like, hey, we made a costume for you, you want to join? And Daya's like, oh yeah, okay.
Which the thing with Hanamaru's storyline though is that they do still make it her decision ultimately.
Totally, 100%.
Like she at one point is just like, oh, you know, I can't do this. And I think it's one of their exercising training sessions.
Yeah.
She's just like, I can't do this. This isn't me. This isn't for me. This is what you want to do, not me. But I believe in you. But then eventually she realized like, this is actually something I'm interested in doing. I want to be able to prove myself. And you know, she chooses to do that.
Yeah. And with like Daya, you see like over the course of those episodes leading up to that, like she's breaking down her like adversity towards Aqua and everything, and then like by the time like you see Ruby kind of give her like the costume they made, like that's like the little thing, the crack that breaks the dam essentially for her to be like, okay, yeah, I totally want to do this. I want to be in this with you, Ruby.
Right. And I mean, we know that she has an affinity for school idols already. We know that she's done it already and really likes doing it. We know that she's the one who gave them their group name. Like Daya already was very entrenched in it and already had an interest in it, even if she was saying that she did.
Yeah. So like I think you could make the argument for Maki a little bit more in this, in that like, you know, she's already interested in everything. So like with the way she is, maybe this was the thing that they thought would be the easiest way for her to get in, is that they just had to kind of just give her the tug in,
force her hand, basically.
Yeah, essentially. With Ren though, it's just like, hey, she's your friend, so we're just gonna bring her along for the ride, whether or not she wants to do this or not.
Right.
So
I just wish there had been more of like agency with those two.
Totally, yeah, I agree completely. But we end the episode with a gremlin on the internet. Talking.
Yeah, she's on there being an online bully.
She's being a troll. And
like,
yeah, that's how we end the episode.
Good enough to be idols. Get out of here.
So yeah, next time we will be discussing season 1, episode number 5. It's called Nico Attacks. She's going to hit everyone with the Nico knee.
It's true.
So yeah, look forward to that. But if you'd like more from us, go to seasonlanguagecheckup.com or sac.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Season Language Checkup and Season Language Checkup OVA. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. And you can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. So next time, join us as we see the true introduction of a gremlin.
Yay. I love gremlins.